Well, hey, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a great week. I'm really excited about our webinar that we have today. Two reasons. One, I know both of the talented individuals who are going to be speaking in today's webinar and sharing really some best practices to help you understand how to position your business for what I call not just 2020, but really a new decade of lending. There are a lot of times I have the pleasure of introducing people and even talking about programs or services. But I will tell you, I am very familiar with Django and really have seen firsthand by one of the presenters who will be here today how they have used a system like Django, how they've used Django as a system, period, to really elevate and grow their business by leaps and bounds. And so I would like to go ahead and introduce our two guests for today. First, we have Susan Pryor. Susan Pryor is the branch manager of Benchmark Mortgage, as well as a premier loan originator with over 15 years of experience. I personally have had the opportunity to work with Susan in the past, and she is the consummate mortgage/sales professional. So I think you're going to learn a lot from Susan. Susan's personal production team has closed over 230 transactions for volume of over 59 million annually. Her focus on excellent marketing and surpassing customer expectations has helped her build a business built primarily on referrals and past clients. As a VA specialist, Susan and her team have a significant practice helping military families as well, and to those who have served our company. Moderating today's panel, our second guest is also Mike Gullitz. Mike is the founder and CEO of Django. He's the developers of the mortgage industry first Tier 1 customer relationship management application. His years of industry experience and professional mission to change the way business people work led him to create high-performance cloud-based CRM applications. Mike's background includes growing successful businesses in the mortgage industry, technology, and online marketplace. Django offers a best-in-class marketing and CRM system, really solution, I would say, designed for mortgage and real estate professionals. And as I stated, guys, what I'm really excited about is if you're trying to get a platform where you can maximize your ability to connect and build your brand and ultimately grow your business, this is a session that you were happily right to tune into, because ultimately I think you're going to learn a lot from both Susan and Mike in terms of processes and systems. So having said that, let's get straight into it. Mike, we're going to turn it over to you to take it from here.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate the warm introduction, and great to be able to spend some time with you folks and all your members of NAMBA. And in fact, Susan, I don't know if you remember, you're the one that introduced me and Tony 3 or 4 years ago. So I want to thank you again today for that.
Yes, I used to work for Tony, so it all goes around.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started. We really want to thank you, Susan, again for being a part of the panel, and we love having these conversations with top producing loan officers. This is one of the great ways for other loan officers that are coming up and getting started in the business, coming up in the ranks, to learn from the best of the best. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask you a few questions as we begin to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about developing team processes, but before we go there, how did you get started in the mortgage business?
So I'm one of those folks who has a 9/11 story. I was 8 months pregnant when 9/11 happened, and was selling software for a computer software company and covering the entire Southeast, which for some reason includes Missouri and Kansas. And when I went back after my maternity leave, my first trip was to Manhattan, which of course was a complete mess. And I had my little itty bitty baby with me. And pretty quickly I decided that I needed to have a job where I could not be on the road all the time. And so I had a friend who went into the mortgage business, and I walked into his office and said, hey, I'm going to come work for you today. And it was really busy back then because rates were low and everybody was making money. And he said, well, we really don't have time. We don't have the processing capacity. And I said, I'm working for you or I'm working for somebody else today. And so that was it.
Outstanding. One of our big themes today, and something that comes up quite a bit here at Jungo from the folks that are starting to get some traction with their business, is developing team processes. Before we get too deep into your processes, how did you team you're working with now, and how long have you been working together?
So I think I collect people. At one point, I had a very big team, and we spun off, and now I just have a production team. And so I was able to take the best of the best from my 30-person team and make it into an amazing 5-person team that would be able to do significant volume. But then I collect people. So like my business partner, Shandy King, and I have worked together for 14 years. We have an executive assistant who's worked with us for 14 years. Our production partner has been with us 10 years. So we collect people, and I absolutely have the best of the best.
That's amazing. What are some of the most important factors that you consider when you're really working towards building those long-term relationships?
Well, really, you have to understand, people want to know that you care is really the most important thing. And people stay for leadership. They don't stay just for money or just for time off or whatever. So we try to have a good time. We try to not wear anybody out anymore. Definitely back in the day, we were working 24 hours a day. And so part of coming Benchmark, it creates this like peaceful lifestyle for me that allows us to go home at night. And so just taking care of your people, having fun with them. And then of course you got to pay them well.
Absolutely. Beyond the pay, you were mentioning about the appreciation. Are there any specific team building exercises or team building events that you've found that have been useful for helping keep your team together?
Yes, we do all kinds of crazy stuff because my team is virtual. A lot of the people are virtual. And so there's 3 of us in the office, but 2 of us very remote from us and from each other. So we just get together and do stuff. Like for Christmas, we rented 5 hotel rooms at this hotel downtown, and we all went there and had cocktails and went to dinner and came back and just visited together. And it was safe because my folks can drink. So I wanted to make sure nobody was driving. Yep. And we might be professional drinkers. That might be our tagline. So, but whatever, back when during the crash, I would cook. And so I loved people by feeding them. And so just whatever it is, just whatever you do to show love to your family and to spend time with your family, you do the same thing. We did do a group trip to Disney and took all the kids one time. So it just depends on what the budget is. Sometimes it's cooking, and sometimes it's a little more extravagant than that.
So as I'm beginning to transition into talking about the loan business, and hearing Tony talk about 230 plus loans, 65 million plus in volume, in a state that doesn't have really big, expensive loans like we have out here in California, what kind of processes have you put in place to streamline and work efficiently with your team?
Well, that is the key to everything. Process. Certainly the first thing you've got to do is get really good at having conversations with the client and being confident with your client. But our industry has a 0 failure tolerance. And so you have to be meticulous about everything that you do and ensure that every client has the same experience. And so I've worked many, many years on this, but I would go off to a conference and learn something new and come back and brainstorm it out, put together the email follow-up, the process flow, and then implement it into our Django system. And then once you've done all that and can hold people accountable to doing their part of it, then you can let go and not worry at all. So, for example, when my loans are clear to close, an email goes out from Encompass. My Encompass tells Django that the loan is clear to close. And that auto-generates an email that goes out to my client and the listing agent and the selling agent. And it says your loan is clear to close. This is how the closing disclosure process is going to work. These are the things to worry about. These are the timelines to worry about. And so if I had to remember to check when someone was clear to close and go send that email, it's likely that wouldn't happen every single time. But it's something that just happens in the background for me. I have a mover who's a really good friend of mine, and whenever I'm big into what partnerships and relationships, both in my employees and the industry. So my moving friend, whenever a client goes under contract, we send him an email saying, Sarah Smith is under contract. We give him her current physical address, and his team just drops a moving coupon in the mail. I'm not providing any information, but this person's conceptually moving in the next month. And it doesn't say anything about me. It's just a coupon shows up in their mail. And, but I don't have to think about it. The system automatically knows on X day to send that out. I have 2 different insurance agents that I recommend. One of them is one of my big teams that I work with. They own an insurance company. So I have to make sure that I'm referring their insurance company for their clients. And then I have another insurance company that I refer for all the other clients. So we have a system set up that an email goes out on day 8 that says, hey, you need to start thinking about your insurance. And one email recommending one person goes out to all people who are with this team. And then a different email goes out to recommend somebody else to the rest of the team. Those are just things I could never in a million years do without process and without the Django and the technology to make that happen.
It sounds like you've really modeled your processes after some of the things that you've learned at the events that you and I like to attend, and you've come up with best practices, and you're leveraging the technology to make sure that you're executing on those best practices in a consistent manner. Does that sound correct?
Yeah. So, margins are obviously in the last 2 years, we've had some changes in margins, and I think you have to do more with less people. And the only way to do that and still provide the over-the-top experience for the client, which is critical to a referral business, is to have process and technology to make that happen. We do a 4-gift post-closing thing. I'm a believer that rather than send somebody a $50 gift, in my opinion, when somebody gets a really nice gift from someone, they're going to, for just a second, say, oh, did you overcharge me? So some of my friends will send a $100 gift or whatever. We don't do that. We send 4 tiny little gifts, but it keeps us in their mind. And then we're asking for referrals throughout that process. So we send like a house cookie cutter that's branded for us. We send a Starbucks card. We have some special things we do if they're veterans. We send them a little bag of cookies. So every month for 4 months after closing, they get a little thing from us. Well, you got to have process. You have to have someone who's going to do the buying. You got to have someone who's going to package it up, someone who's going to make sure the envelopes are ready. And then you have to have a system that tells you who to send them to.
A lot of our clients are individual loan officers or teams of one. What kind of advice do you have for those that are looking to expand and add their first LOA or really want to grow a team environment like yours?
Well, for the loan officer who's getting started, it's all about getting a CRM. And then every time that you talk to someone on the phone, you put that client's information or that agent's information or that insurance agent's information into Django or whatever. And then you always set up a follow-up task for that person. So every single person in your database should always have a follow-up task. The follow-up task might be call in 2 months, 6 months. It might be send an email in a week and then some other follow-up after that. That's the most important system you can put in place for yourself as a brand new loan officer. And then when you add in assistance, you have that data where you're keeping all the information, and you have a list of things that you want to accomplish today based on the tasks you set up for yourself. So as you add an assistant, you can say, hey, you do these parts of the task, I'll do these parts of the tasks. At one point, we had 20 different people in Django with tasks being assigned to each individual person by name. Like, it's just impossible to, the system will handle any amount of complexity. The mistake that I made was I overdid that. And so start simple is my advice. When people add, the hardest hire is your first assistant, but it's the most critical hire. I'm a believer that you can't do more than about 5 units a month by yourself. Consistently every single month. If you might have 10 one month, but then that's going to hurt your production the following month. So the way to stop those ups and downs is to have an assistant. But the hardest one to teach is the first one, because you're going 100 miles an hour. So I recommend with your very first assistant that you have them sit in your office with you, and you listen to them talk on the phone, and you have them listen to you talk on the phone. And when you pass tasks on to them that they can own, that you feel like they're competent to take care of, then you have them write a little document about what that task that they're taking from you. This is what I told you to say. This is how many days after we do X that you say it. Then you send a note card, whatever it is, and this is what the note card says. So I'm not really good at writing those manuals, but it's critical that you have them. So I make the person who I just taught the process to write the manual, and then I review it and tweak it. And then we have that manual so that when you hire your next assistant, the first person can train the second person, but they have an outline that makes it very easy for them to offload that task. Or God forbid you lose somebody and you have to replace your assistant, you have that documentation that helps you start with training. Now, things will change, but generally 80% of what you need to do is correct from 1 year to the next. You just have to tweak the 20% every time that you change who's working on it. So we recently hired a 10-hour-a-week, really high-end executive assistant in California. And we were able to offload a ton of tasks to her in a very short period of time because we had already had the documentation, and it was just a matter of walking her through it a few times. Now, she's sharp, that helps, but you have to let go. And that's why I say you have to let that first person sit in office with you, because otherwise you will never let go. And then hopefully you kick them out of your office after a few months.
There's a lot of nuggets in what you just said. I really think that's amazing. I want to transition into standing out from the competition. And I'm one of those people that when I'm talking to a top producer, I can't hear enough about how your volume's going. So tell us once again, what was your volume last year and how much of an increase was that over the year before?
So it was actually 59 million we did last year, and that was 230 units. And that was up from about 50 million the year before.
Okay.
And our goal is 70 this year. And we're with the same team.
How many folks on your team doing that volume?
I have a front-end person who answers the phone and takes applications and sets up consultations. I have a processor. I have an executive assistant who also orders out, and she does all of the marketing stuff that we were talking about. And then we have a production partner. So once a loan is under contract, she's like the smartest one on the team, and she makes it all perfect and makes sure the client understands everything and the documents are all ready for processing.
Okay. So understanding your market there in Atlanta, Georgia, that would put you in the top. It's got to put you among the top originators in the market. What are you doing different from your competition?
Um, well, one, yeah, I think we're top 3% or something. It's because of how many units you have to do here to do that kind of volume.
Right.
The foundation of what we sell is certainty. And so the most important thing is that never, ever, 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 if I give you a pre-approval, do we not find a way to make it happen? And I did have one situation like that where we took the client at their word for something that didn't end up being the case by the time we fettered it all out. And we wrote a 1% check to the seller, and we covered the earnest money for the buyer. Because never do I want to be in a situation where I didn't stand by my word. Then it's just relationships. It's one thing that we've talked a little bit about Todd Duncan. I've been in Todd's different programs for the last 4 or 5 years, and Todd taught me that I don't have to work with anybody I don't love, and that is so freeing. And he also teaches you to focus on a smaller number of referral partners.
That's a Toddism, isn't it?
It is. It is. He also teaches you that you don't have to answer the phone all weekend, which is another freeing thing. I'm not sure I make as much money as his top producers do. They do, 200 million or whatever, but I have definitely learned the quality of life and work with people that you love. And those things are kind of related to each other, because if you take care of, support, and help your agents grow that you would like to work with, that are smart, that aren't going to get into deals that don't make sense, that are going to actually do a buyer's consultation with the client so they know what to expect, it makes all the difference in the world. So we will look to add. We have 12 agents now that we really focus on. We will look to add one more that I love. She's amazing, and so we're going to kick off that new relationship. And then we have a builder account that is, we're going to be the VA lender for that builder account. And
well, that's a good segue into my next question. Can you tell us a little bit more about where you're getting your business, past clients, realtors, affiliate relationships? Just kind of continue along that track.
Sure. Around 30% of our business is past clients and referrals from past clients. 5% is CPAs, financial planners, folks that I have really strong relationships with. I don't have 12 relationships like that. I have a few really strong relationships. I think I told you when we were talking earlier that I'm a big believer that you should not put your money with a financial planner who isn't referring you business. And, but if you can find one who will refer you good business and that you like the financial planning and you guys can enjoy each other's company, and you will naturally refer each other. And yeah, it'd be great to have 12 of those, but I can take really good care of one financial planner and we can finish each other's sentences. So
that's a great strategy. As I'm going to transition a little bit so I want to get more and more out of this conversation, because you're just giving us so many nuggets today. I want to talk a little bit about what we call the tools of the trade. And I'm a complete gadget geek and self-professed technology snob, as you know. What are some of your go-to technologies? What are they called, and how long have you been using them?
Okay, and so I'm a big dork on this front, obviously. So Django is the thing we've had the longest. We've had it forever. I have 12 or 13 years of data in my Django. Cannot imagine. Please never make me function without that. The one of the coolest thing about Django is that it's built on the foundation of Salesforce, and Salesforce is the 100-pound gorilla in the CRM market. So as we add in other technologies, they instantly integrate, because anybody who builds a technology is going to integrate into Salesforce. And so over the years, people have tried to get me to convert to other programs. And, whatever. Everybody's got something sexy, but I know that going forward, I'm going to be able to add technologies that are going to lock into my system. So we use Flowify. We're a very big user of Flowify. We do our applications in Flowify. We do all of our document management in Flowify, and we do all of our disclosures out of Flowify. So that's been a huge time improvement. I swear that's half a person in getting all that document management stuff to work smoothly in a way that the clients actually do it. We use ZipWhip for texting. So we have a team number, our team phone number, that it rings to the office during the day, and then we forward it around during off hours. So you can call the office number at any point, and you're likely to get a quick response. We use that same phone number for texting out of ZipWhip, and then everybody has an app on their phone that they can see all the texting conversations. And then Jungo saves all of those texting conversations into the history. So if anybody's trying to figure out what's going on, they can hop in and take a look. We use a project called Agent Legend to work our cold leads. It's a system that you set up campaigns, and those campaigns will include vocal. So it will text and email and drop audio into a prospect's voicemail. So we have a team, sometimes they give us leads that they're really looking for us to help them sift. They're not warm leads. So we'll just drop them in that system, and that system will touch them about 10 times over the course of 8 days. And once they respond to me, then that system shuts down, and that person has raised their hand. And we know we focus on them. What else? There was something we didn't talk about the other day that.
Are you using any video?
BombBomb. So we created some doodly videos, and we use BombBomb has a series of videos that go out. I know what it was. It was Mortgage Coach. So it sends out. So if I have a new agent that comes into, so the one, again, BombBomb and Jungo integrate. So if I have a new agent that comes into my system, Jungo is coded to notice when I have a new realtor in my system. So they got added because they were on a transaction with me or whatever. Then that tells BombBomb to send out a series of videos that are program specific. So there's several of them are about VA. Some of them are about why you should buy now, reverse mortgage. And so it just hits that agent with a video email from us every week for, say, 12 weeks after their first introduction to me. And again, I don't have to do anything with that. That all does it itself, because it would never happen if I had to keep track of it. And I'm just now trying to use BombBomb to do the personal videos to people. That's very high on my implementation list for this year.
I think what I'm hearing from you, Susan, is you're picking best of breed technologies that have the features that you really want, but also when you're considering this, you need those new technologies to integrate together, and that's your real 1-2 punch.
Right, and then Encompass, which honestly I don't know that I've ever had anything that Jungo didn't integrate to. So Jungo makes that easy, but like we have Encompass and Jungo integrated. Back to kind of me saying that Encompass says it's clear to close, or Encompass says the loan's closed, and so then my Jungo knows to do stuff because the system in Encompass says it's closed. So integration is the key to all of it. Whenever you have to have something manual, you create a mess. And when you do have to have something manual, then you have to have a process for it. So there's one thing that between the integration between Jungo and BombBomb that I couldn't figure out how to do automatically. So every morning, as part of my assistant's morning routine, she logs into BombBomb and pushes a button. And that forces the integration every morning because it does an automatic. So that's just a process thing. So you have to know where, you have to create processes around your technology.
I've got a question I want to go back to from the audience. Well, first, a real quick question. What was the name of the texting app you mentioned again?
ZipWhip, ZipWhip.
Okay. You got that, John? And then the other question came in from Stacy during the team building section. I didn't see this, but I think it's an important question. Stacy's on the call, and she says she's been in the industry for 7 years, just starting her own brokerage a few months ago. Volume last month was 11 units, over 3 million with a one-person team. Congratulations on that. I think it may be time to hire. How do I make that choice? I'm really nervous to take the next step. I'm 30 years old, planning on starting a family soon, and I was waiting until my kids were in school, but I feel like it makes more sense to start my team now, so I have people running my company. Any advice on that, Susan?
Oh, 100%. And I have coached many originators through that process. And it's that, like I said, that first hire is always the hardest one, because you think you're the center of it. You know how to do everything, and you just don't trust anybody else to do anything. You have to go with the methodology that if they can do 70% of it, then you have to let them do it. So it's never going to, it's just like having kids. It's never the right time to have kids. It's never the right time to have an assistant. But I absolutely, if you're somebody who can do 10 loans in a month, that was when I was a manager, that was the place. When somebody did 10 loans a month for 2 or 3 months in a row, then I knew I had to get them an assistant, or they were going to explode, or we were going to lose the momentum. So you were absolutely at the right place to hire an assistant. I would try to make their compensation as tied to your production as possible. Figure out what is that minimum they need to feel comfortable as a base salary, and then make, pay them a per loan fee or something, so that when you do really well, they do really well, and vice versa. And then, of course, it depends on who you work for. You said you had your own brokerage firm, so if you worked for somebody else, then they might split it with you. But if you're the house, absolutely, you need to hire somebody.
And I think you shared with us previously that when I asked you what part of the task list or what part of your role do you try to replace yourself in first, could you talk to Stacy a little bit about that?
Sure. I recommend it's the first phone calls with the client. You need the nurse, like the nurse and doctor concept. So when you come into the doctor's office, somebody takes all your paperwork, gets you organized, schedules you to time to go to to talk to the doctor, takes your blood, all that kind of stuff. You need that nurse who's going to answer the phone and get everything organized for you and then book you. It does lots of things, one of which it makes your life sane because you're only focused on clients that, like in our system, they don't get through to a consultation if their credit's not decent. My assistant, the front end person, does the credit counseling. So you know that when you're doing your consultations, you're only dealing with people who are likely to get pre-approved, and you are on a schedule that makes your life sane, and your clients actually get much better service because when they call, someone actually answers the phone. If you're doing it all, then you're spending all day long returning phone calls of people who call you while you're in the middle of a consultation, or you're trying to think, right? You're trying to put together a proposal, and the interruptions will dramatically reduce your productivity. So that is absolutely, and that person just they don't have to know the mortgage business. They can just be fun and friendly and bubbly and fun person for you to be with. And, somebody who's got some sales instincts is critical for that spot. Some people say, and I'm not against this, that your first hire is like somebody who's going to do document management. And we used to do it that way, but with all the new technology, document management is so much easier now. I don't think you need a head count there.
You mentioned coaching, and I know you and I are both products of coaching, long-term coaching programs. Can you tell us a little bit about the coaching programs that you're a part of and what kind of impact they've had on your business?
Yes, everybody has. You have to constantly be filling your mind with things that challenge you, whatever that is. And there have been some years where it was all very industry specific, and then some years when I went and looked elsewhere for my challenge. I currently just have an executive coach. So she doesn't really know too much about the mortgage business, but she and I spend a lot of time focusing on process and workflow and profitability and staff management, staff development, like big grown-up things. And whereas coaches who are in the industry tend to tell you how to do things that are in the industry. Here's your script. This is how you handle this situation. And that's all important too. Coaching is very much an accountability thing. And so you have to figure out how much accountability you need and how good you are at doing implementation yourself. My biggest recommendation is that Todd Duncan does a high trust sales academy. It's not cheap. It's, I think, $2,500 or something. It's almost a full week. It is by far the best training in the industry. And I would send somebody who was brand new to that, or I would send somebody who the first time I took it, I had been in the industry for 10 years. So I would absolutely recommend. Now, Todd Duncan his team has coaching, and that's great at all kinds of levels. They have coaching. But my biggest recommendation is that the best product I've seen in the industry for training is that High Trust Sales Academy class.
Do you use social media?
I do. Oh, and I forgot Mortgage Coach. So it's now twice I've forgotten Mortgage Coach. When you go back to the technology, we also use Mortgage Coach to do presentations for clients.
So total cost analysis and rent versus own, things like that?
Yeah, mostly it's just a way to compare the different options that you're presenting to the client. For us, we're probably not a power user.
Okay.
But, especially in a refinance situation, the clients are trying to, I think we mostly use it for refinances, but in a refinance situation, clients really need to be able to compare their current situation to the options to make a decision. And so we rely on Mortgage Coach heavily. And then again, that integrates with Jungo. Every time somebody opens it, it sends you an email, which gets saved into Jungo so you can see how many times your client looked at your proposal.
Yeah, we had, I think Mortgage Coach was actually our first integration that we built and we were their first integration partner. So that's it's just one of those products, guys, that if you're really trying to separate yourself from the competition, doing the reports and sending over the marketing material really sets you up as the advisor that their client's looking for, and it'll really separate you from the other loan officers that they may be talking to.
Yeah, so I would say Jungo was first and Mortgage Coach was second in terms of how we layered in technology, and then everything else came after that. So social media, we have a veterans page. It's Georgia Homeownership Resource Center for Veterans or something like that. And so
we'll get it up on the blog too.
Sorry. So a community page is going to do better on Facebook than a team page. We do also have a team page. And so we use that as a way to post our different doodly videos that we created and different resources. We're very passionate about making sure that veterans know what they've earned and they don't. And so whether that's their VA eligibility or how they get their disability rankings or whatever. So we like to post all kinds of different things to that. And then, but I mean, we probably only have 600 likes or something. It's not but we use that platform when we raise it when you pay, we pay $20 to raise the profile of it. And then that goes to all of I have about 4,000 realtors that I'm friends with. And so when I raise the profile of that video on that page, then it ends up in the video in the feeds of my different agent friends. And that just helps me with name recognition. And we often get the phone call, hey, I've got a VA loan and I know that you're the person to do it.
Well, as a veteran, I thank you for putting special attention on that, because our veterans, everybody, I hope everyone believes that they deserve the best after serving our country. What do you think about reviews and ratings? Are you leveraging those in social media and in your business?
Yes. I think Google is the best place to have your reviews. We have them on Google, Facebook, Zillow. Yeah, I think that's mostly it. I think we do we have something else, but anyway.
And do you ask the clients, are you proactive asking them for a review, to leave a review for you after the transaction?
Yes. So at two weeks after closing, Genco sends them an email asking them to do a review, and then asking them to copy that review into multiple platforms for us. And we do bribe them. We put in there that if they take the time to do that for us, that we will give them a $25 Amazon gift card. And we have found that makes a difference. We have 132 5-star reviews.
Wow.
And occasionally we do get a call from somebody who just saw us on the reviews but people will check us out. That's really the big thing. Like occasionally we'll get a call just from the reviews, but more than that, if somebody refers us, they're going to look us up, and that is going to pop out right away. So we also, if you send so then whenever somebody does a review, we have a group in Django that we mark review received, so that we don't ask them again, or we kind of know who our warriors are. And then at Christmas time, we send an email to everybody that hasn't given us a review and ask for more, because everybody wants $25 at Christmas. And we always get a huge bunch of them, the first week in December. So.
Well, I want to transition a little bit into, more of your secrets to success. How are you reaching out to real estate agents, and do you do anything specific like time blocking when you're calling them, and what do you like to say?
So time blocking is 100%, especially what new originators, well, everybody has to do time blocking. I recommend that you do your, we call it green time, or Todd calls it green time. You do your green time in the morning, because really the world doesn't need you before 11 a.m. You can make your phone calls between 9 and 11, and whatever's going on, especially if you have an assistant, will be okay by 11 o'clock. And often what happens is some problem arose that fixed itself, and because you weren't on it. You got to learn to stay off email, which is really hard. Turn off all of those little, everything that dings. Your phone should not ding. The email thing where it shows up that you just got an email, you got to turn that off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the noise will make it hard for you to really be good at what you do. And then, so we just call agents. I mean, I'm always looking for something to call them about, right? So like, it might be that we just closed a deal together. So I'd call them and, ask for an opportunity to meet with them. I might call about a program, like the 100% program or renovation lending. But, in general, we don't do too much of that anymore, because we have our top 12 that we really focus on. And then for me, it's about hanging out with my friends and just making sure that I'm in their lives, and that I'm helping them grow their business, helping them be accountable to what success they wanted. But then when you really want someone, so I have this one agent I told you about that I really have loved her, the way she's presented herself in the market. She just bought her own brokerage firm. And she's just amazing. And so, but she didn't know me from Adam. So I happened to have tickets to a charity event for the Braves. And so I reached out to her, that my moving company gave me. So I reached out to her and invited her to the event. And so she went. She had a blast. She met all the Braves and blah blah blah. Well, by the end of that, she would have given me her children, right? And so then she and I met, and really, it's just all about finding out what's important to them. What's important to them. Ty would say, "What's important to them about success?" And Ty would tell you to go as deep on that as possible, so you understand where their heart is. And then I'm just a businesswoman. I love to grow businesses, so I'm always looking for, like this particular agent, she needs to hire an assistant. And so part of my communication with her is, how's the assistant hiring going, right? Because I'm an accountability partner too.
Sure.
And so it's relationship building. People do business with people that they like. The only other thing I would say is communication. If you already have deals, then if you over communicate with everybody in the transaction, phone, email. So like we have a process on Fridays where we do Friday updates. So we update everybody in the transaction on Friday via email. Out of Django, it generates a form that puts in some details about the file. Like this is the name of the property, this is the closing date, the loan amount. And then we just put in there like loan is approved, working underwriting conditions or something. Because we found that people would panic late on Friday afternoon or on Saturday because they've been working all week, and then it occurs to them that they want to know what's going on with their loan. So we established that a long time ago. But if you don't have a lot of business, you can update people 2 or 3 times a week. And it's updating that listing agent and that buyer's agent that makes them your fans.
So I was going to ask you how many times a week you're calling them, but this sounds like this is just constant communication as needed. So you're texting and calling your agents as much as you need to.
Well, the processor communicates with them on an as-needed basis. We email them on Fridays, and I right now working on a video update on Tuesdays. I do think my agents trust me, and so they don't really need a ton more communication than that. But when you're new working with somebody and they don't know you probably need to update them more often.
Okay. What about your past clients? What's the schedule? How many touches are you doing annually? We
try to reach out to them at least 4 times a year, and we usually do a contest of some kind. We'll give away Braves tickets, or those bark box things where like 4 things will come over the course of 4 months. Like we had a series where we let them pick from one of 4 different kinds of those things. So anyway, we do that 4 times. We do that 4 times a year, and sometimes I'll just use Slido to call the past clients and be like, "Hey, we have tickets to the Braves game on October 13th. Would you like to, if you'd like to come, text us or whatever." One of the other things I'd say is right now you have to communicate with everybody on every platform. If you call them, you got to text them and you got to email them, because each one of them has a different way they want to communicate. And millennials will be mad at you if they call you and you did not return their phone call, even if they did not leave a message. And for old people like me, that's the stupidest thing in the world. So, you got to communicate with everybody on every platform so that you figure out how they want to communicate with you.
I like it. How many transactions you closed? 239 transactions. Is that what I heard? Last year?
230.
230. And 30% of that was from past clients?
Yes.
Okay. So
it's like 29 point something, but yeah.
I'm a new LO, and I'm hearing this. And for me, doing 1 loan a month or 2 loans a month, that might sound like the moon. What is your advice, your hacks or tips for a loan officer that's just getting started in our industry?
Gotcha. It's you got to reach out, and so you got to I think when I used to have loan officers that were doing, say, 2, 3, 4 transactions a month, I created a process for them where I gave them all Army men. And I only gave them 10 Army men, but they couldn't leave their desk in the morning. I mean, it was kind of a joke, like, because I'm not a really, I'm not going to shoot you if you get up from your desk, but I would say, you can't get up from your desk or can't work on anything else until you knock down your 10 Army men. So if you're already doing 4 or 5 transactions a month, then you need to be making a minimum of 10 calls a day. If you're brand new, then, really you ought to be up doing 50. I mean, if you sat and did phone calls, you could make 50 phone calls in 2.5 hours. And if you don't have anything else to do, what are you doing?
That's a great segue into the next section. So schedule and structure. What Susan? What's your day look like? I mean, what time do you come in? What do you do? Tell us what a typical day in the life for you is.
You don't want to know what I do, but like I said, I think a new loan officer should spend the first 2 hours of the day, turn off email, and you and your database and the phone should be calling. And sometimes I don't care who you call. If you call 50 people a day, like in our VA practice, we'll reach out to veteran support people or community support people, or join a charity, or just talk to somebody. If you try to make 50 phone calls and 50 emails and 50 texts a day, you'll be rich. And it's just a matter of time. You got to sow the seeds, plant the seeds, and eventually those seeds come together. And sometimes it's fast, and then sometimes it takes, I've got the most amazing things that will happen in your career will take 2 or 3 years to come together.
So since we are mostly, we're kind of like the airline pilots, this industry, we're coming to a place where a lot of our professionals are thinking about retiring in the next 10 years. What do you tell somebody who's coming out of college who maybe hasn't figured out quite what career path to take? What would you tell somebody that's looking for a great opportunity and why they should consider the mortgage business?
Nothing is going to pay you as well, or as, you can always make money selling something. And for us, like whenever you had a bad day and you're like, I'm leaving the industry, when you looked around, you were like, nah, I can make way more money doing what I do. For me, as you get older, it's much more about the feeling you get when you let help a first-time home buyer buy a house. Or we do all kinds of insane things for veterans, and nothing will make you feel better than that. And so be a part of helping people become homeowners. I mean, homeownership is the key to intergenerational wealth. And, especially like if you're a minority, you want to fight for your people to be homeowners, because, all of us have a grandmother or something where the only reason they could retire was because they paid their mortgage payments for 30 years. And then they didn't have a mortgage payment, so that $2,000 they got from Social Security was enough. But if you have to pay $1,400 in rent, your $2,000 in Social Security isn't going to work. So be passionate about home ownership. But how to get started is I highly recommend that you get on a team of other people. You're right. A bunch of us are going to retire in the next 10 years. And we're going to be passing it on to other people. And so you go learn from somebody else, because it's tough. It's like being in real estate. If you I'm going to go out and find business, that's a rough thing to do. And it might take you a while to really build that up. And so if you go work for somebody else, you get to have your hands in 100 transactions in a short period of time, and you learn so much. And to me, it's much more fun to be on a team anyway, because I don't have to worry about the phone blowing up all the time. Somebody else can answer the phone. And if I go to Mexico for a week, there's somebody else to take care of everything. And so big part of the quality of life is being on a team, period. Whether you're at the entry level of the team or at the top of the team.
And I think it's sage advice. Some of the best advice I've heard is, instead of trying to do it on your own, get into a team, do 100 transactions, and then if you still want to branch out on your own, you're going to go out there with a heck of a lot of experience under your belt.
Yes. And you never know, whoever you're working with might pass on some part of their business to you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, we just came to the top of the hour, and I'm guessing that everybody on this call got a dozen nuggets or more today from you, Susan. And we just really wanted to thank you once again for sharing and paying this forward. And thank you for all of you NAMBA members that were able to jump on the webinar with us. Tony, thanks for the kind introduction. And we will be putting this up on the NAMBA blog as well as the Jungo blog. So we'll be able to get that out to you guys. We'll follow up with some emails. Any final thoughts, Susan?
I am going to take a minute and tell you a story. Somebody brought me a veteran who was getting ready to lose his house because his second mortgage was in default. He made $1,350 a month in Social Security. He had $1,450 a month in mortgage payments. He owed $25,000 judgment to American Express on his house, had a bunch of equity in his home, hadn't had running water in 6 months because he couldn't afford the tool to get the water running. His roof was falling in on itself. He hadn't been to the doctor, and he had bonded out his son out of jail, and it had had this big bond on his house because his son never did his community service. In 1 month, we were able to do a reverse, pay off everything, make it so the guy doesn't have a payment for the rest of his life. He doesn't have a taxes or insurance bill until he's 92 years old. We hired a bail bondsman to go pick his son up and take him to jail so we could get the bond released. Owens Corning paid to have the roof replaced for free. We raised about $5,000 on Facebook, so we were able to catch up his mortgage and rent the equipment he needed. And that man is a completely different human being. Nothing in my career will ever feel like that felt. So find something in what you're doing that makes you feel good because you're doing something for somebody else.
It's fantastic. Thank you for sharing the story, Susan. And of course, thanks again for your time today. We really appreciate it. And go out there and make it a great 2020.